Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the SimuTech podcast. My name is Julie, and this is...
And I'm Mark. We have a very exciting first podcast episode for you. We have a living legend with us, the current CEO of SimuTech Group, Rick James.
Woohoo!
Woo! Woo!
Thank you.
So Rick, being that you've been with the company for over 18 years, why don't you tell us a little bit about you? How did you, start off with SimuTech Group? I know that you're an engineer. I just would like to know a little bit more about how you came to become the CEO of SimuTech Group.
Oh man, well I started out in Seattle and worked for Jim Radosha hired me, so he's our CIO, and I started out the engineering manager and pretty much did everything. I made coffee, took out trash, taught CFD classes, FEA classes, did pre-sales, post-sales, tech support, did the work. So, I'm a weird nerd that I love computers and engineering, and I like to break things with my hands when I'm building out in the garage. And so it works. And I like pretty pictures. So any color plots, even in undergrad, it was like Ansys used to advertise when they were in Houston, Pennsylvania, and they'd have advertised in the back of like Mechanical Engineering magazine. It was like, oh my gosh, that's so pretty. So that is a silly way of looking at it, but I'm drawn to pretty pictures. So.
And what is your background with engineering? What kind of engineer are you?
So bachelor's and master's in mechanical, so fatigue and fracture. Why did things break? My professors were all failure analysis and litigation guys, and then my doctorate's in engineering management, which is kind of a weird optimization, programming, and finance and operations management. So a lot of manufacturing.
Awesome.
You mentioned you've been with Semitech for quite a while. Can you just describe what the culture is like here at Semitech?
I mean, culture is awesome. I think it's one of the things that matters almost as much as anything to me. I mean, you gotta pay the bills and gotta have sales, and that's obviously important. But I think in terms of like a place that you want to work at, I'm an employee, and I think that having that organization, like continuously building or trying to build something that I want to be proud of, and that I want to show up to work and create that environment for other people as well. So I think that's a key thing, and a key thing of that, key part of that, and documenting like what is culture. Like sometimes you walk in and you don't know what it is, but you know it's good, and that's a good thing. But I think there's this other aspect of documenting and values, like, hey, this is what we believe, and if you don't believe that, that's really cool. Go do what you want to do someplace else. But here's like this circle of trust, that ultimately this is what we believe in, and I think that's been really helpful as a guide. As we dive into some of those values and actually tie in, here's what we believe, here's our culture, and then here's the words that we believe in.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I know we have a pretty big organization and we're spread out across the US and Canada. So even, my co-host here, Julie, we've never met in person, but we have that culture and that great connection online, and same goes with you and me as well, Rick. So you can definitely feel the culture within our organization, and you're right, people do really live and breathe, what the culture is and who we are as an organization.
Absolutely. So what do you think, Rick, is going to happen for Semitech moving forward as being a valued partner, especially an elite channel partner with Ansys? Where do you think we're headed as far as, growing size? Do we plan to grow or expand and add more engineers? Are we going to add more sales professionals?
Well, it's interesting taking perspective. I mean, we kind of were in, we go back before 10 years ago, we kind of did sales because we needed to. And I think it was about 5 years ago, we really got on a growth angle, a little bit more in partnership with Ansys sales. Like I think before that, it was extremely adversarial. I think there's an inflection point with new leadership at Ansys where I feel like they actually wanted us to succeed, which is funny to not actually feel that before that. But I also think that growth, there's a couple of meetings we've had back in this time, like about 5 years ago, of like, why grow? Like, why should Cemutech actually grow? Is it, more numbers? We want to get bigger. Bigger is better. I think there's certainly I I think there's actually something a little bit more employee focused. That's actually, I think growth actually equals opportunity. And the fact is that we've got people that have started off in inside sales, moved into marketing, started inside sales, moved in became like one of the top outside salespeople, or moved into operations or project management. So I think just that ability to move within the company and have opportunity, that's huge. So that's a key reason why I grow. But I think actually on the Ansys side, we will keep growing. Ansys, basically, we are a value added partner. I mean, that's kind of redundant to say that, but we actually, when our revenue, the way it's recorded by Ansys, there's no cost of goods with it. So we really help their margins. And I think in terms of like where we grow, there's still states we don't sell in. There's still products that haven't even incorporated into our product line and our portfolio. So there is a lot of runway. I think it's a matter of trying to figure out what's really good for Cemutech. What do we have the patience for? There's certain things that Ansys is going to do that we're going to say no to, like Apache, which is semiconductor. Like that's really not our forte. So I think that there's just a lot of opportunity, and Ansys is going to keep acquiring companies one per quarter. So I say it's an exciting time. I don't think it's ever going to be not exciting, and I think that you'll never get bored at Cemutech.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like Ansys just really respects us as a partner, as we've grown so much too the last couple of years. So that's definitely a good point you brought up.
Yeah, and Rick, one thing I just wanted to follow up with you on, you said there's opportunity for growth. Is there anything specific within Cemutech as far as software or some of the services that we offer where you see big potential for growth either this upcoming year or maybe 5 years down the road?
There's maybe a few areas. One is with services. So that has been something we've always had really, really deep skill set in. And I think that skill set is actually broadening. And I think how we sell it, we have more master service agreements. We're doing more time and materials projects. Our hourly rates are going up. I mean, that's a sign the business is good, but it's also a sign of respect and a sign of the phenomenal overall operations, meaning technical, sale, project management, billing. So that side is just growing, and it should, because that is credibility. And honestly, we don't recruit any engineers to come to the company. People come here because they want to work on fun consulting projects. I should say addictive consulting projects, because to go work on Apple, to go work on Deepwater Horizons, or to work on F-16 landing gear, or a cool drone or something like that. Like the amount of stuff is like engineering brain candy. It's awesome. So I think that's going to be a key thing. On the software side, there's just a lot. I say they're new products, but new ways of products. They're not just a new FEA feature or something like that. Minerva, which who knows when Minerva is going to make money for us. That's the kind of a PLM data management, simulation data management. AGI, the new acquisition that manages satellites, and I don't know, but there's lots of really, really cool things out there.
I love your passion for SimuTech Group. I get really excited talking to you because I kind of can geek out with you a little bit, even being in sales, a lot of the stuff you're talking about just got me excited. So yeah, thank you for that.
Oh, there's lots of geek here, so I'll spread it around.
Rick, given your experience in the industry, what would be your recommendations for someone who's looking to get experienced in Ansys?
Yeah, there's so many places to start. I mean, it could be a bit overwhelming. Do you start with theory or equations or anything like that? But I actually think one of the more interesting ways, which sometimes is maybe easier, actually learn stories. Ask for stories. Go search for stories. The fact is that stories are kind of how our brain works and how we're wired. It's easy to remember. And then that provides, in my opinion anyways, context for getting into inverse power law and theory and Paris equation for cycle counting and nerdy things like that. I think it's actually easier to start the story and then move into the equations and the techniques and things like that. So
we know you have plenty of stories. I'm always going to you for stories. So is there any 2 stories that come to mind that you just love sharing, or you think, people would find exciting or benefit from?
Yeah, I mean, some of my story is a little bit dated because it's been a while since I actually put my name on a consulting report. But There's a couple that are interesting that I was pretty involved with. One would actually be Apple. So it's been many years ago. We actually did some analysis work, on the iPhone. So it was a really cool kind of a tiger team within Semitech that went off and did Elistine drop test on the phone. So it was pretty detailed, and it was really interesting. There's a lot of details that we a little bit hesitant to share, but I think about the pride of knowing of that the quality of work. They were really impressed with us, and so that was some pretty good structural work. On a similar vein, there was a litigation project based out of Seattle, and it was a bicycle rider that had a really high-end triple-bedded aluminum bicycle frame, and a stick got caught in the spokes. He's doing 27 miles an hour. He didn't endo over the top. Like normally you'd go over and get some strawberries and break your collarbone. And that's a bad day. But what happened to him is his bike shattered in 20 milliseconds in 3 locations. He went neck first into the ground and shattered his spine as a paraplegic. So that's terrible. But what happened is he actually was an employee of REI, which is a big Seattle-based just outdoor equipment retailer. But they started, private labeling. Anyway, so it was, besides getting the engineering, I personally got caught up with wanting this guy who had a family, who was young, that basically got fired from his job, that wanted to go off and raise his family. And I felt myself being pulled in, and I was super objective and stuff like that. But all of a sudden, I felt this, man, we're actually making a difference in this guy's life and his family and his family legacy, like, his kids going to college and things like that. So ultimately there was a settlement, and there was money, and it was kind of private and things like that. But there was a full accident reconstruction with a dummy, and actually looking at the triple bed aluminum. And I think that the industry actually, a lot of that, not completely, but a lot of that based on our work at Semitech, it's rare to find a triple bed aluminum bicycle, and you're not going to find the Novara product line at REI that has that bicycle anymore. So when you think about the work that we've done, and there's other really cool things that Semitech has worked on, like Deepwater Horizons oil spill, and where you really make a difference in society. And sometimes that difference actually comes from, hey, we tweaked this turbo machinery edge tip, and we had the efficiency by 0.1%. And I'm high-fiving going, yes, that's awesome. Because you think that's like trillions of tons of CO2 that you happen. It's still a power plant, it's still fossil fuel, but we're still making those incremental changes. I think that's a lot of what Semitech brings to the table, not just with our consulting services, but actually with the technology that we bring to companies and actually help them implement it properly, and make those changes. Because everybody wants to change the world. I do. And I think that the way that we do that is actually, one customer at a time. And getting in actually one product at a time and making these incremental tweaks. And sometimes they're breakthrough, but most of what we do is really incremental breakthroughs. And you know what? You do that 1,000 times, and pretty soon you've got a better society. So that's really what we're about. And there's a couple stories, and getting a little vague on details, but it's something I'm proud of, not just for my self or anything, but I think we're Semitech. Everything's a team here. So that was definitely a team to get those projects done.
Awesome.
Yeah, those are great stories, and I wish we had a little bit more time to hear a few more stories. We'll have to have you back on in the future, but just listening to you tell those stories, you touched on the beginning about the culture with Simutech, and I could really tell how passionate you were about, working with both those customers and making a difference. Could you just touch a little bit more about, our core values and the culture, and what are some things that really stick out to you that you'd want to share with everyone else that isn't a part of our great family?
Yeah. Well, I think that from a philosophical point, I think every company has core values. And some people in those companies actually know what they are. I think that one of the things that my view in, when we do our all hands meetings is that it's one thing to say, here's our core values, but we really try almost every meeting to tell a story that illustrates the core values. If you can't tell a story that illustrates the core values, why the heck do you have them? So we have a bunch. We have our core values, but there's a couple that I think that I refer to, and when there's a problem, I refer other people to. Is like, hey, how is this employee living this out? And I think one of them is just win-win. the win-win culture, that ultimately that if I'm going to come and if it's, me going to an employee and thinking and acting win-win and planning, that's a true statement. Me going to a prospect, if a prospect knows that you're out to not, especially in sales, like if you're sales, if you're just out to get a sale just for your own benefit, the customer is going to find that out. But if you're out there to actually make them better and make them money, and I think that I think when that vibe comes across, sometimes verbal, sometimes nonverbal, it really does make a difference. So I think that's a key one that I think that permeates almost every decision that we do. I think maybe another one actually that I think kind of is born out of a lot of consulting work was actually we expect to be respectfully challenged by others within our company. And I think part of that is that if you have an idea, let's say a technical idea, I want to approach this problem this way, and somebody else says, did you consider this? That's not an insult. that is how iron sharpens iron, stuff like that. That's how we operate. And there's a respectful way and a disrespectful way. There's a wrong way to do it. But I think the idea is that we want it to be the right way. And I think actually taking that beyond just arguing over a consulting project approach to actually talking to a customer and talking about sales and actually challenging them. I mean, Julie, you're in sales. You've gone to a customer when they said, we want this product. And you went back in and said, no, how about this? How about this? Yeah. I think challenging them, and actually not just for the sake of challenge, but actually making sure that they understand the features, functions, and price points and options. And it's complex. So I think in a complex product sale that we need that to permeate every part of our culture, our inner Semitech, circle, as well as outside of that. But those are kind of two values that I think from my chair really permeate like the thinking across the board. So like, there's others, but I'll kind of stop there. So.
It's up to us as SimuTech Group, especially as sales professionals, to educate our clients, because Ansys has such a big portfolio. So, they might think that they need Ansys mechanical when in fact, they need something else. So it's us. That's why we have the best engineers on staff. That's why we're all kind of putting all of our heads together to make sure that we can come up with the best solution for our clients. So yes, thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rick. This was great having you on the podcast. Again, we really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us. We want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and everyone listening as well. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you also.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Stay tuned.
Thank you.